And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to what is actually the 10th episode. Unlike last week where I screwed that one up. But it is the 10th episode and the second installment of
Twisted Tuesdays.
Twisted Tuesdays on the Unfinished Business Podcast. Take it away. I got to take a sip.
Okay, well, before we get started on anything, I want to wish my co-host here a very happy belated 20th birthday. He turned 20 yesterday. Big man now. This guy's probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet, so he deserves it. He's a nice guy. Ladies, hit him up. J-Merch 12. What? What?
Yeah, before we went on, he's like, I need to say something before the podcast starts on, and
What?
I'm not dumb. I know exactly what was going, but I appreciate it. Thank you. But with that being said, the best birthday present of all, rest aside from all the loved ones that have sent me, is that we actually have a set date of when the sport is coming back. And what is that sport?
What is it? Hockey?
The puck, le hockey, le twig, and le skates.
I think
puck is returning, baby. Thank you for Gary Bettmen, who is probably the most hated commissioner in all of sports, minus Goodell.
Yeah.
I think he gained a lot of respect and a lot of the fans back today with his press conference briefing.
That's for sure, 100%.
I thought it was really interesting today too. Like it was on. Tim and Sid was on at like 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
3 hours they were on, and right after Bettman did his press conference and all that, he went straight on the air with Tim and Sid, which I thought was really weird. It wasn't pre-recorded. It was live, so
yeah,
pretty interesting. And it was also like there was this noise in the background, and he said his 3-year-old something, and I was listening. I'm like, please don't say his 3-year-old son. Please don't say his 3-year-old son. But it was his grandson. Thank the Lord for that.
Well, we're going to get into the details today then of what Gary Bettman has said and the excitement across all of Canada. That's for sure that hockey's
back. You see this poor little kid's face? He's like 10 again.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, my goodness. There's no set date for sure yet, like you said. But when it happens, he's basically laid out the rules for what's going to happen for the playoffs and what's going to happen for the draft. So the regular season is officially done. The 2019-2020 NHL season has come to an end, and the playoffs will commence when they get the okay. And he started off by saying that it's what we assumed from a while ago was that 24 teams made the Stanley Cup playoffs, 12 teams in each conference, and they ranked them based on points percentage. How do you like that idea of having point percentage over points?
So it does eliminate the bias towards if teams played maybe 2 or 3 extra games than the others if they were to win any. But like there was only March 12th, Black Thursday is what they're calling it. I love it. Black Thursday is when everything shut down.
Yeah.
And they had maybe like a handful of games left, like 10 or 15. So like the range, it wasn't a crazy range of how many games were being played in between.
Yeah.
So to keep it in all fairness, it's probably the best solution for it. But it does flip the seeds a little bit.
Yeah,
Toronto
exactly.
would be ranked higher, but
yeah, and even Winnipeg would be ranked higher in their conference by 2 or 3 more spots. So,
but I want to touch on what you said with the regular season being complete. This whole lovely mustachio right here was grown on the basis that the best player in the league, Austin Matthews, was able to score 50 goals.
You use that term. You don't use that team too lately.
The regular season is complete. He will not be able to score 50 goals. Was at 47. The Leafs record was at 54. Personally, I think he would have done it. I think they had like 10, 11 games, 12 games left. He would have done it, I think. And it's sad to see that go. So the stash will be on until we see the first game of NHL hockey.
Yeah. That's not that sad, but I guess it's sad for you Leafs fans. I'm not really concerned.
Looks pretty thick though, eh?
It does, yes, it does.
Just for men, thank you very much.
But since the season's ended as well, there were a few awards that were given out based on goals and points or whatnot throughout the season. So the first one, which was a tie, was the Rock Richard Trophy. for the most goals in the season. And Ovechkin and his Capitals played 69 games, and he got 48
What a
goals.
number.
And Pasternak of the Boston Bruins got the same amount of goals in one more game played with the Bruins. I don't know if that's their games played, but that's the team's game played, and they both have 48 goals. Do you think there should be a tiebreaker for this trophy, or do you think they should just both be awarded the trophy?
So what I've been hearing is that the tiebreaker is probably going to go for points per game,
Okay.
is what it would be. And if that is the case, it would be Pasternak winning the Rocket. But I like the way that Pasta started the season off, he was red hot. I
Yeah.
think he had 30 before the All-Star break. So he was on pace to score 70 plus.
Yeah, he
It
was.
just never, who knows, maybe it would have happened, maybe not. But nevertheless, I think that's probably the best way to do it. Or what are you thinking? The same thing or?
Yeah, same thing. Even I would even be upset with a tie. Like if there's a tie,
No,
give it.
it's the Rocket Richard. It's probably like the one that like
It should be called the
aside
Alexander Ovechkin Trophy, anyways. Rock Richard only scored 50 goals once in his whole career.
besides the
Ovechkin's
MVPs in the
best
respective
pure goal
sports,
scorer of all
that's
time.
probably like the biggest accomplishment to win is the Rocket and or Art Ross. And speaking of Art Ross, it's set in stone that Oilers center Leon Draisaitl will win the Art Ross with 110 points. Pretty solid for any
Yeah.
season, even though he still's got a 10 plus games to play. Really no, I think he was going to win anyway. Next closest was his teammate McDavid at 97 points. Kind of crazy. For the first time in a long time that two teammates will finish 1 and 2 in Art Ross voting, or
Yeah.
Art Ross not voting, Art Ross awards. So kind of crazy, if you ask me.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And some other just like stats or things that have ended, like the most points by defenseman was John Carlson. He had 78 points.
He's a
And
lock for the Norris, I think.
yeah, and then most wins for a goalie was Andrei Vasilevsky with 35 wins of Tampa Bay. So I don't know.
I don't know if he's in the Vezina.
I don't know if he's going to win Vezina. There's a lot of debate there.
I'll be on that episode.
Yeah, another episode. Moving along with what Bettman said. So he said that there are going to be 2 hub cities, and they don't know which hub cities yet. Based on they have to make some decisions. So they said based on local transportation, there's only a max of 50 personnel to each hub city, and so there's a list of a few cities that are good qualifying cities. You want to read them out? What cities?
Yeah. So there's 10 possible cities that are under consideration. We'll list them up for you. It's Chicago, Illinois, Columbus, Ohio, Dallas, Texas, Edmonton, Alberta, Vegas, Nevada, LA, California, Minneapolis / St. Paul, Minnesota, the Twin Cities, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Toronto, Ontario, and Vancouver, BC. So Bettman did say the decision will be made in about 3 to 4 weeks. So more factors that will be put into that decision is that it'll be based on the facilities they have and how the city is coping with COVID-19. So a factor that really has not been mentioned very much with the commissioner is that if the hub city is in Canada, there still is a 14-day quarantine for anybody who's coming into the country, no matter what your circumstance is. And in place, what do you think is your ideal hub city? Hub cities, we'll say.
Oh, obviously, like we said in the last episode, Edmonton would be a great hub city. I just don't see it. Maybe I don't see it panning out for a Canadian city to be one of the 2 hub cities just because of the quarantine that we'll do and how the U.S. has less strict measures in place for everything going on right now. So, like you said, you've been saying this for a while, is Las Vegas. And so I think there would be a good place. And I was thinking kind of Columbus, Ohio as well. It's close to the border.
People, like obviously up here in Canada, we really don't hear a whole lot of Columbus, Ohio, but the locals there are very, very much into hockey. Like Ohio State has one of the best women's hockey programs in the nation.
Yeah,
and I think they do probably have the facilities to do it. So, what are your picks, Vegas and Columbus?
Yeah, those are my picks. What are yours?
Okay, so how I'm going to look at this is like everybody from around the world is going to be, or I shouldn't say around the world, North America is going to be watching this, and no one's going to be in the stands, right? So I think that time zone is going to be a huge factor into what comes to it. So I think if anybody's going to be getting this, it's going to be anything in the central time zone and or close to it. So with that being said, it's four cities who are in the mix, and that'd be Chicago, Dallas, Edmonton, Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I'm going to throw in Columbus in there because I just think that Columbus is going to be one of them for sure.
Yeah.
Just that I think they have the best facilities for it. with the Jackets Arena, and they have Ohio State in their backyard too. And I think
Exactly.
Ohio's done a pretty good job with COVID, to tell
Yep.
you the truth. They've done and they're moving pretty fast with the stages, we'll call it. And I think Edmonton's going to get the hub city. I think Edmonton's going to get it.
Yeah, I want them to. I just don't see it
Newest
panning out.
arena, the facilities are there, hotels are there, best city North American wise per capita and how they're dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
But I don't see the Cup final being in Edmonton at all.
Yeah.
But how I think this would work is that we'll talk about this later. I'm sure we'll get to it. But before, it would have to be 2 weeks before the season starts. Everyone just gets there, 2-week quarantine, do whatever you need to do, and then play. And then you don't go anywhere. And like U.S. has the foreign athlete policy. They just announced today that anybody who's not in the country can come to the U.S. if it's for playing a sport. No quarantine needed. So, and I think that if everybody's in Edmonton, sure. And obviously they can change. The policies can change.
Yeah.
But I think that they can't be banking on policies to change. So Edmonton, Columbus holds the Cup final.
Those are two solid picks. And then if the Hub Cities team was in the playoffs, which most of all these Hub Cities, all of them are in the playoffs. I don't see one that's not in the playoffs.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Yeah, Los Angeles is the only one. But do the players have to quarantine in a hotel, or would they have to stay in their own homes and just quarantine from their own homes?
Yeah, I thought that's a very, very good question, which I didn't really think of until now, is that it's kind of an unfair advantage for the team that's there.
Yeah.
That if they want to stay home, because I don't know if they're going to give them the option for it. But again, some players don't want to have exposure to COVID and then bring it home to their families. Yeah. And you're seeing that with nurses and medical professionals who can't
even go home. Yeah.
So shout out Brock University for doing a huge one-up for the nurses of Niagara who are staying in their residences right now because they don't want to bring it home to their loved ones. So I think it's going to be the players' decision, and I think that's all you can ask for them right now because I don't know if you can really put a label on it.
Yeah, 100%. And then in the votes for the format, so all the teams voted, obviously, all 31 teams, and it was a 29-2 vote in votes for the teams for this format. And then I kind of expect this too. Tampa Bay was one of the two that didn't vote for this. And I kind of thought of this because like they don't want to have that same scenario last year where they're the number one seed and then they just got swept by Columbus in the first round. So that's obviously why they're looking for every advantage they can get. And they wanted basically more of a bye, they wanted more like leeway for being like one of the top 4 teams, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused because I don't know why Tampa would be one of the 2 teams to revoke this call because they have a shot at being the number 1 seed, which they didn't have before, and they were 10 points behind Boston to be the number 1 seed. If the only thing I can really think of is right now is that Tampa's not really in one of the hot zones for COVID, so it's not that like the players are more at risk than anywhere else than they would be, and I'm just not. It's very confusing to me. But I don't know. People like another team has voted negative off this, and that hasn't been released yet. But again, it's the owner that makes the decision on. It's not the players, obviously.
Yeah.
So there might be some extenuating factors that say otherwise. But there is going to be 4 phases to reopening of the NHL. Phase 1 is going to be in early June. We're in phase 1 right now, excuse me. Phase 2 will be early June, which would be, Bettmen came out and said it's probably going to be the first week of June. And then that would be training camp would start July 1st at the earliest. It would be a conference-based round robin, qualifying rounds and playoffs, and it could lead into early fall. Is that too late for you?
I just want to see the season now. At this point, they come out with everything and a whole plan. I don't care when they start, whatever they think. Obviously, I don't want them to rush into anything. So as long as they get the season done and they think they can get the season done and then get back on track into getting a regular schedule up and running again for the next season, then I think that's fine.
So if it were to end in the fall, it would probably start around late December, early January for next season to start off. So Bettmen has come out and said that it possibly would start with the Winter Classic. How sweet would that be?
Be a sick way to start off the season. Yeah. I
Like,
think
come
everyone
on.
would tune in. All
That'd be
hockey fans would tune
ridiculous.
into that game.
That would be absolutely ridiculous. But Bettman has come out and said that there will be a full season, 82 full game season next year. So how are they going to maneuver that if
Yeah,
they're going to start on New Year's?
I think they're going to have to just, if they're trying to cram that in and get the schedule back on track and the way it used to was, they're going to have to cram these
It's
games
going to look
back.
like the 50s, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
they're going to have to go back to back to back, honestly, if you get through these games. So I'll love break time, I think, for next season.
Be crazy talk.
Yeah. Before we get into the standings for the playoffs and everything, we can talk about the draft. So me being a Habs fan, obviously, they made the playoffs. We could talk about the playoffs. You're a Toronto fan. They could talk about the playoffs. But I'm also Ottawa native, so I'm an Ottawa Senators fan too. And the one thing that comes out of this is that Ottawa has a chance at that number one pick for this season, and they laid out the whole format for how this is going to work. So the lottery is going to be held on Friday, June 26th. It's more live TV, so that's
Back it up,
awesome.
Danny G.
Anything live TV, and only picks 1 through 3 are up for grabs. So that means they're just doing the lottery for picks 1 through 3, and the rest would be based on their standings and seeds and everything and their points percentage. And that would be it. They'd get the same odds, same percentages as the years before for whatever position they're in. So there's 7 teams who miss the playoffs, and the 8 teams who lose in the qualifying round will also be part of that as well. June 26th, so will be before the qualifying round, so that's phase 1. The first draw will determine the first overall pick, the second overall pick, and the third overall pick. And then you want to go more into how the draft's going to work?
Yeah, sure. So if a draw is won by a non-resuming club, so which is any of the 7 who did not make the cut, it will receive that pick. So there will only be a phase 2 if none of the 7 teams win a draw.
Yeah.
So let's say, just hypothetically wise, if Detroit, Ottawa, and Anaheim win the top 3 picks, there will be no phase 2.
Yeah.
So if an unknown team wins any of the draws, hopefully we will see another draft special, but I think that draft special only lasts like 15 minutes, so you never know.
Yeah.
But once the top 3 picks are determined, the remaining clubs will be slotted based on points percentage, not on overall points in the regular season. Mm-hmm. So with the odds made, Detroit has the best with 13.5%. I think it's going to be absolutely crazy if Detroit does not win this first overall pick coming up from a very
I thought they have 18.5.
Oh, 18. Okay, 18.5. But I do know a very outspoken Detroit Red Wings fan who happened to pick the song for this week, and Mr. Kyle Williams. Happy 20th to him. And he has been very adamant that it's going to be a screw job if Detroit doesn't get the number 1 overall pick this year, who happens to be an absolute stud player, Canadian lad named Alexis Lafreniere, who's going to be an absolute stud in this league. But Ottawa has probably 25% odds to land him with the second best odds at 13.5% and the third best with 11.5 due to the Erik Karlsson trade.
Yeah.
Which is looking pretty good in hindsight right now. The LA Kings at 9.5, Anaheim at 8.5, Jersey at 7.5, Buffalo, I don't know what to say to them, 6.5. They start off every year so hot
and
just fizzle out.
I don't know.
And we had this podcast planned about a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
and
we talked about this.
The first write-up we did was how hot Buffalo was.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they just plummet.
They're like the old Leafs. They're like the Leafs. Good in October and November, and then going down. It's unlike the Leafs to be doing this the last couple of years, but they basically taken over that for them.
That's crazy. So then the remaining 8 slots, I'm an idiot. 8 slots will be filled from the qualifying teams who lost. So the 8 seed would be 6%, the 9 would be 5%, the 10 seed would be 3.5%, the 11 seed would be 3%, the 12 would be 2.5%, the 13 will be 2%, 14 will be 1.5%, and the 15 will be 1%. So possibly the Canadians and or Leafs could have a 6% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick.
Wait, look, what are you talking about? We're looking at the cup. We're not worried about any of this.
But no, seriously.
Yeah, I know.
You could have a solid team like the Penguins.
Yeah.
Or those teams could be second, third round playoff contenders and end up having a 5% chance of winning the lottery.
What if they win the lottery and add a guy with, like, let's say
I would,
Pittsburgh wins and gets Alexis Lafreniere? Look at, like, that's insane.
and or
Then
trade it for something. You
then
never
then
know.
Crosby just grooms him. There's just storylines if that could happen.
But
That'd be
that
insane.
that'd be crazy. Like I know Toronto traded away their first round pick to Carolina with the Patrick Marleau trade.
Mhm.
But if their pick ends up in the top 10, they keep it, and then Carolina receives the 2021 pick.
Oh,
So
okay.
the Lafreniere to Toronto is still a possibility.
Who knows? Maybe.
So,
But that caps off the draft portion of the NHL
but
formatting.
they did not set a date for the draft,
Yeah,
which I
not for
thought
the
was quite
draft.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, would you like to have the draft? Because if they wait till after the season starts, or excuse me, after the season ends, it would be like I would say a late September, early October draft. And then if you want to start up the season in January, it's a very small window to get to know your teammates.
I think they should do it now. Like, well, not now, but like as soon as possible before they do the playoffs. They could just have it like where you're gonna usually have it at the end
So
of the
would you
season, like
want to
July.
see after your lottery on the 26th, you get your top three made pretty much. So would you like to see it maybe like a August? I would like to see an August draft just
Yeah.
because you kind of know what your top 15 are going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I don't know. It's going to be tough to stay because you won't have
That's if they. Yeah.
you won't have all your seeds until after the season's done.
Exactly. That's what Bettman was talking about today. Like we won't know which team, like whose team's gonna end up where
So
until
like
they
you're
actually get
talking maybe
eliminated.
a 1.5, 2 month window to
Yeah.
sign your contract, get accustomed to the city, get a house, car, get familiar with your area, teammates, your system. It's going to be a tough rookie year for
And
anybody coming in. So we're going to find out what these kids
more
are really made of.
complicated. Yeah, it's even more complicated with COVID going on too. Like they're limited to what's going on in certain cities. They probably have more strict or less less strict rules, but depending on where they are, they could have a really tough time adapting to the new city.
Very
And
well
then so
said.
we go right along to the the NHL playoff format now, and how this is going to work out. So the teams, like we said before, are going to be seeded by regular season points percentage and not overall points. The top four teams in each conference will play a round robin to determine the seeding, which I find to be like, I think that's pretty cool. Like we've never seen a round robin type of thing
It
in the
screws
NHL,
over
and
some
I
teams,
find that
though.
interesting. What
It
do you
does
think?
screw over some
It
teams.
does. It does. Yeah.
Boston had a 10-point
Yeah.
cushion on Tampa Bay and the rest of the Atlantic, and they could be the 4 seed. Not
That's
saying they
pretty.
would, but they
That's pretty
could very
crazy.
well be a 4 seed.
Just prove you're the number one and win all your games, and then that's all you
Well,
have to do.
there will not be either. There won't be any preseason. There'll be no tune-ups. It's going to be
Yeah.
feed them to the wall. It's going to be crazy. We'll find out,
Yeah.
see how these guys kept themselves in shape throughout quarantine.
Yeah, and so for those round robin games, they're going to be regular season format for those games. So does that mean it will
Shootout.
go 3-3 and then shootout?
You got it.
Yeah, if there's a tie. Yeah, that would be pretty entertaining to see in a playoff game we haven't seen. Obviously, I don't like that, but that's how it's going to be just to end the games
So I
quickly,
guess
just for
really
round
for
robin.
those 4 teams, it's preseason
Yeah,
because they're going to be making the playoffs. So they get 3 tune-up games essentially.
yeah, they can put whoever they want in, or really just save your stars. The remaining 6 teams will be playing a best of 5 series to advance to the first round. And obviously, guys like Crosby and Duchesne, they didn't want the best of 5. They only wanted best of 7, but this is the round before the first round technically, so you're not really missing out on any games. They're still debating whether in the first round they should have best of 5 and best of 7 yet, so they don't know that for sure. The playoffs will either be in bracket style or seeding.
Which one do you
And
want? Which one do you want? Bracket style or seeding?
I want. Oh, it's tough. I think I want bracket style. I think it's just classic, and it's old. It's like old school, and it's the way those things are supposed to be done.
No.
You gotta. Yeah, I think
Seeding.
so.
That's the most fairest way to do it. Like that's how it is. Like your best team is number 1, your least is number 12. I think that's how it's going to be. Yeah, number 12.
Yeah, yeah,
It's econ math here, but I think that's the fairest way to do it. Like it's going to be. I think it's the most
maybe
easiest way
speaking
to
a little
do it.
bit biased. I don't know.
Carry on.
And So the players want the reseed and the league wants the bracket. So there's obviously a divide. Um, the qualifying round winners will play top seeds in the first round, which I see that to be fair. The first round and second round, so like I said, is either going to be best of 5 or 7. We still don't know. And then the conference finals and Stanley Cup finals will be best of 7. What do you think about this going, like how the series are going to play out?
Stanley Cup finals has to be best of 7. Has to
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
I like the conference finals being the best of 7 as well, just because I think there'll be a lot of people whining if there is in the best of 7 series. I would like to see the first round the best of 5, just because I think they need to move on quickly and try to get the season next year, and I don't think that other games make that big of a difference. And for the people who think that goalies are going to steal a game or something,
that's good. Good.
Like, come on. That's what they get paid to do. They get paid to win games.
It's like how you see these guys in the NFL. You got these big Showtime players stealing games away just in one game. It's pretty fun to watch. It's more entertaining when you see these players stealing these games away.
They're not giving any credit to how good these players are. It's like, oh my God, like, oh, Gary Price is in that. No, take away a game for them.
Yeah, honestly.
Like, seriously, that's why they're there. But I would like to see the second round be a best of 7, but I think time permitting, I don't care. I like maybe best of 5 is the best move. I would have liked to see the qualifying round be a best of 3, just because it's not really the playoffs.
Exactly. It's not that big of a deal. But the players really pushed for that because, like we said, the X Factor players, which it's wham.
So with the format in place, the top 4 teams in the East would be the aforementioned Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, Washington Capitals, and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Philly.
Big ups to Philly. I don't know how they would be able to get there from their start this season. Carter Hart really showed out for them. Claude Giroux made some headlines skating around that Ottawa rink this week. Logan is closed now, but big ups to him. So in the East, your best of 5 qualifying rounds would look as follows. It would be the Pittsburgh Penguins against your Montreal Canadiens.
Yikes.
The Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers. Big ups to New York for turning around their season.
Yeah.
The New York Islanders against the Florida Panthers. And the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. It seems like every Toronto team gets to taste some Ohio at some point.
At some point.
Like LeBron owned the Raptors. LeBronto made headline a couple of years ago. But I hope
still remember that bank shot.
Toronto needs to win this one. But would this count as a playoff series win in your eyes? Or will there be an asterisk beside it?
I think players will put an asterisk beside it if they lose, and that's what's just going to happen. Obviously, it's just not the way things are done. But for this year, it is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it.
This particular qualifying round, would you consider the first playoff series win?
I wouldn't consider it a playoff series win. Like this qualifying round. This round's after you're still getting all 4. You make it all the way to the cup final. So I think I wouldn't consider this one to be. I don't know if it's going to have that same like playoff atmosphere. Obviously it's not with the fans, but their mentality going into it. I don't know if it's going to feel like that for them.
Well, I think it won't be, or it will be an asterisk beside it. Is because for some teams coming into this, they're not really supposed to be playing teams that aren't in the playoffs, like Montreal, like Columbus.
Yeah.
So
Chicago.
In that sense, I guess it should be an asterisk beside it, but these teams all had a reasonable chance of making it into the playoffs. So in that sense, I'm okay with it. It's hockey. There should be no asterisk because from what these guys have been doing,
and then so we're gonna go into the teams in the West now. So the top 4 teams in the West were St. Louis, the Blues, the Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars. Vegas having another great season, which is just they've been good since they've come in.
George McPhee should be an executive of the year every year.
Honestly,
what he's been doing in Vegas.
He's been doing a great job. The best of 5 qualifying rounds in the West would be Edmonton versus Chicago, Nashville versus Arizona, Vancouver versus Minnesota, and Calgary versus Winnipeg. So before I ask you what your favorite matchups are going to be, I want to tell you what I wish would have happened in the West.
I know exactly what you want because I want it too.
It's the Calgary Edmonton.
Yeah, you got it.
I wanted that. I think a lot of hockey fans wanted to see that.
Round 2.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Maybe we could see that round 2. That would be insane. I wanted to see it round 1 so we'd guarantee it.
If it's seeding, you would. But if it was bracket, I don't think so.
Yeah. But yeah, so
You don't want.
what are some of your other favorite matchups in the East and the West?
Well, I would love to. It would be Chicago Edmonton, just because I think Chicago has definitely the chance to upset.
Yeah,
Just because a lot of people are not a fan of Chicago making the playoffs, just because they're the dark horse. I think just because of the Stanley Cup pedigrees they've had in the 2010s, winning three.
yeah.
So I think it's hard to teach kids how to win in the playoffs. And you got Patty Kane, Jonathan Toews, Duncan Keith, Corey Crawford, who's
Oh,
probably one of the most underrated goalies still in this league, who's
yeah.
it's getting up there, but I think it speaks. I think experience is going to be a huge factor in it, and it's only best of five. So I think with people saying they're going to steal games, I think Corey Crawford's going to steal the series.
Yeah,
Because Edmonton's goaltending is still up in the air. Mike Smith's a solid goaltender, but hasn't
yeah.
really had a whole lot of playoff experience. And last year against Colorado just didn't happen.
Yeah,
Shout out
I
Cam
can't.
Lattimore for keeping me up with the Kill McCarr game. That was unreal.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. I remember getting a few noise complaints that time. Um, but honestly, this is not be biased. I'm really excited to watch the Montreal Pittsburgh game, the series. Obviously, I am because I'm a Montreal fan.
Do you
But
remember
to
Crosby's
see,
first week in the season against Montreal, and he roofed it backhand top cheese on Jose Theodore?
yes, I
And
remember that.
back in quote, probably one of the most legendary broadcasters in the game, Gordon Miller. Say, welcome to the Crosby Show, Canada.
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember. You don't have to repeat it.
Oh,
I see it on highlight types all the time. I hate seeing it, but I just can't wait. I think it's like a few stars in that series. Obviously, with
great price.
Price, Weber, Max Domi emerging as a star now,
Well,
and
yeah,
then you
it's
have
great. Like I think
like that's gonna be a great series in my opinion.
with this 2 month layoff, it gets people ready that were injured. Like Shea Weber had, what was it, a foot problem?
Yeah, the ankle surgery and
Ankle issue,
everything.
and
Yeah,
he's able to clear that up now. So he's going to be
yeah,
able to get up ready and step back up into the and play up to his caliber that you normally see. So I think that yeah, everyone's going to be in their tip top, no, not maybe not endurance wise, but tip top shape. That you're going to see the best of the best, and there will be no injuries unless Janssen's out for the season with the Leafs, but he sucks anyway. That's for another story.
Does any team other than the Toronto Maple Leafs?
But no, like I can't think of any off the top of my head. Like seriously,
Exactly.
I think everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
So our last question that we're going to leave on today is that: do you think it speaks volume that the NHL is really the first league in North America to display a return to play plan?
Honestly, I was shocked that they were the first team. I mean, the first league to come out with a plan and everything. I thought even the first like formal plan was going to come out within a few weeks, maybe 2-3 more weeks, because even we saw in the NBA, Adam Silver was not going to make a decision for another like 3 or 4 weeks now. So I didn't expect it. I think it does speak volume. The NHL is trying to prepare it as best as they can, and I think people don't give Gary Bettmen enough credit, in my opinion. I know there's like who doesn't like the commission? Like no one likes the commission of like almost any league other than the NBA. But
Well, I think people like the NBA now just because of how Adam Silver dealt with the coronavirus.
yeah,
Okay, finish your point.
yeah, that was just my point. I just don't think Gary Bettman's getting enough credit for what he's done, even since he's been come into the league. Obviously, you're going to have your ups and downs, but he's done a lot of good things for the league, and this is something that obviously makes all hockey fans happy. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I was really shocked that the NHL was the first one to do it, just because they're not really the biggest league in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be the NBA just because of how they dealt with it first. Like Black Thursday, they were the first league to shut it down, and then everyone else followed. So, and I watch ESPN every morning just because TSN is really lacking on the content right now just because of COVID.
Yeah.
But it was front page news. Like you don't see that a whole lot with the NHL and the ESPN because it doesn't sell very good. But like they get the back burner of the show, like maybe like 5 minutes for like the 40-minute commercial.
Isn't it like the LeBron show most of the time in ESPN?
You're funny. But yeah, like I think it's a great move on the NHL to like say I want closure and everything. Like we now know that there'll be hockey back.
Exciting.
And that was up in the air. Like you didn't know what was going to happen. If they're going to cancel the season, be a regular season, if it'll be a shortened season next season, if it'll be an 8-team, 24-team, 16-team playoff. But I think it pushes the envelope for the rest of the leagues to get their act together, because I think like the sport that's lacking behind right now is baseball.
Yeah, really.
Because they should be playing right now, unlike I guess the NBA and NHL should be playing, but they're
their
in
actual
the
seasons.
first month and a half of their season, and it's 162 games. Like it should be 162 games.
It won't be now, I don't think.
I know the NBA has come out and said that they have a decision in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and they have said that the hub city is looking very, very favorably to do Orlando.
Yep.
But they have not said what's their deal with the draft. They have not said what they're doing playoff format-wise. Baseball is just a whole other – but and NFL is looking pretty solid in September. But big ups to the NHL, big ups to Bettmen, big ups to Bill Daly, big ups to the PA.
Yep.
I don't think the Players Association, the NHL, don't get enough credit for how good their relationship is right now. And I think we're seeing that with baseball, how bad their relationship is right now.
Yeah, very much
Because
so.
that prorated salary thing is what's keeping baseball way behind. But that will be for another debate very soon. But, yeah, NHL's back, baby.
Before we end off, drip or dump, what are you wearing today?
Well, I thought you'd like this just because you're a tennis guy.
Yeah?
Roger Federer.
Oh, yes.
Nike swoosh.
Best tennis player of all time.
Yeah.
I got this hat on. I got the Red Sox. My Montreal Canadiens jersey is MIA. Don't know where it is.
Shout out to Catherine for keeping the
Probably
jersey there.
Yeah, probably in St. Catharines as well. But there we go. That's the end of this episode. So thank you for
watching.
watching.
He's branching out of the shell. He's actually closing the episode.
Wow. You had to call me off and get that last word, and that's sick. Well, thanks for watching, and who's taking it away this time?
Rose Royce. I remembered it. Rose Royce. Take it away, Rose Royce.
Run away like a car wash. Talking about the car wash. Car wash, yeah. Come on, y'all.